Hey guys, welcome back to day 7 of Release the Craftin. That's me, Priscilla, apostrophe S, Poevember series, which is a month-long challenge that I don't know how to begin, apparently. And I've lost all reason on how to start these. Anyways, Poevember, that's hashtag Poevember25, is a Poe, Edgar Allan Poe themed challenge, and we're into it. If you want to see what it's about, what we're doing here, check out the playlist in the description box. And you can also jump over to my Patreon and get a free kit, because I give away this entire kit that I'm using to members of my Patreon this month, or well, last month, technically. And I do other cool things there. I got videos, I got podcasts, I got all sorts of stuff happening over there. So check that out. So anyways, back to business, you guys. After yesterday's freaking fiasco where I forgot to read the poem and then had to read it as fast as possible because I wasn't trying to make you guys look at dead space for, 3 hours. Yeah, we're back. We're back in action for another day, and the prompt for today is secret, and I thought it would be cool to show you guys an alternative to magnets for closures, and a fun little way to add like a little secret tuck spot, hidden flap. It's like a pocket as well. It serves as a pocket, and it's just a fun way to add a little bit of movement and some stuff to it. I do like how this came out, although I did make my little gusset space, the little open space, a little too wide, so my little slider bit is all over the place. But once I put something in the pocket, it won't matter. It'll stay where I want it to. But yeah. So that's what I'm making. I told you guys for yesterday that I would talk about the poem today, because usually I read you the poem and then I go, here's a little bit about the poem, or like what the poem means and stuff like that. But I didn't have time yesterday because I just jumped right into it and just started talking because you guys told me you wanted me to yap, and so I was ready to yap, and I was so ready that I forgot that I needed to read. So The Spirits of the Dead is actually it's a poem from 1829, which is a little bit earlier than some of the other poems I chose by about 11-ish years. It's a little bit earlier than some of the other poems I picked. I don't know off the top of my head if it is the earliest of the poems that I picked, but it's definitely an early one in his career. And I think this one is interesting because it does the thing that it's trying not to do, like it's warning you about in the poem. So in the poem, the topic of the poem is basically all about being alone and feeling lonely and sort of getting into that state where you start to romanticize the dead and being surrounded by death. And it's supposed to be like, don't do that. Just, like deal with your loneliness and dwell in life and not in death. But it also does the thing where it romanticizes death a little bit, even though it was like, don't do that. That's not good. So I think it's kind of funny, but I like the poem. I think it's a really beautiful one. Of the poems from Poe, I don't know if this would be like high up there in my tops, because it is fairly standard, and it is like as one of his earlier works. I don't think nearly as polished as some of the other ones, but it's a good poem. It does the thing, and it does have all the beautiful like symbolism and imagery that we're used to. And I will say, now that we're a couple of days into this challenge, I am well aware that some of the prompts are the same as last year's. I like getting the challenge to do the same thing but different every year. So you'll probably see that. But also, I will say, as a person who is a gigantic Edgar Allan Poe fan, what I can tell you is that the man knew exactly what kind of imagery he liked, and he used it over and over again. So that's part of the challenge of making the prompt list for these things, because I could have probably recreated half of the prompts from last year on the list, because they all came up again in the poems that I picked for this year, because he uses a lot of the same imagery across all of his works, which is really interesting from like a literary standpoint. Horrible if you're trying to look for prompts for a challenge like this, and you go, oh, well, we did all of those last year, every single time you look at a poem. So yeah, that was a fun little challenging bit, a little behind the scenes information, I guess, for you guys. It's also the reason I chose some different poems that I probably wouldn't have typically chosen out of his plethora of poems. There was definitely some that I wanted to choose, but I didn't, because the themes were so similar, and the wordings were so like overlapping that I knew I wasn't going to get a lot of interesting prompts from them. And then there were other ones that I was like, well, this is goofy. So like they didn't make the cut at the end of the day either. Not to say that they won't in a future installment of Poevember, because I will definitely be doing this again every year until I get sick of it, probably. And I am not sick of it this year, so odds are I will do it again next year. But eventually the silly poems are going to make their way in. I totally lost my train of thought. I don't know what the point of that conversation was, outside of to tell you guys a little bit about how I chose the prompts this year, and how I didn't choose the prompts. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff to pick from. I've also thought about the easiest way to incorporate the stories into this, because I know eventually when I run out of poems, and I might want to continue the stories or pull in some of the stories, and there's some stories I would love to do on this channel, but I haven't done because of the length of them, and they'd be better suited for like a story craft, just because they're so long. Like I'd love to do the Fall of the House of Usher. That is my favorite of the Poe things, but the Fall of the House of Usher is a long story comparatively to some of the other ones I've done. And I don't even remember, now that I'm thinking about my catalog of Poe stories, if I did it. I know that I've done The Mask of the Red Death, and The Cask of Amontillado, The Telltale Heart, I've done The Raven, and The Pit and the Pendulum, but I don't think I've done The Fall of the House of Usher. Murders in the Rue Morgue might be interesting, that's also a longer one. The Black Cat, although, like, I'm reluctant to do that one because of animal death, and specifically my animals' deaths, because, you know, I love my cats, and I find it hard to talk about kitty death, although the theme of that story is also very good. There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff to work with. I guess it's more of a trying to figure out how to incorporate that into the overall Poevember thing, because eventually I will run out of poems, and so it might make sense to include the stories, but I think if I did the story, it'd have to be like the entire month. You know, like I'd have to go like, you know, if we did like the Fall of the House of Usher, it would have to be the whole month, because I don't know how to break that down in a way that's organic. Like maybe like half the month I could do it and just read parts of the story every day. I don't know. I have to think about it. That's just spitballing now, because I didn't know what I was going to talk about here beyond what the meaning of this poem was. That was all I had when I came into this. So yappity yap yap yap. That's what's happening now. There's also a movie called Spirits of the Dead. I found out when I went to go look up this poem so I could put it on the list, and it's a 1968 horror film with one of those posters that goes really hard. I want to bring these posters back. I wish we made posters like this. I only see stuff that's like this well done now in indie circuits and like stage plays and stuff like that have posters that go really hard. Actually, Amethyst Raven, who is Tiffany for you guys who don't know, she's also doing Poevember, so check out her channel. She'll be linked in the playlist, so you can find her that way. She shared on her stories and her reels that her husband had like keyed her into doing the Mask of the Red Death with Vincent Price, and she shared the poster for that, and the movie poster for that also goes epically hard, and it's actually really similar to this Spirits of the Dead poster that I'm talking about. Which I guess is, it's interesting because on the poster it says Edgar Allan Poe's Ultimate Orgy of Evil, and it's a movie with Bridget Bardot, Jane Fonda, Peter Fonda, Terrence Stamp, and a guy named Alan Delon. I don't know who that is. DeLon. I don't know what this movie could possibly be about. I have to go look it up. But the poster style is similar to the Mask of the Red Death one, which is like a face with a bunch of figures in it. It goes hard just for the initial face. Not nearly as hard as Vincent Price's posters do. But I wish we brought some of this stuff back. I recently found something not that long ago at a thrift store. A giant poster that was screen printed, and it was amazing, and I loved it. I put back everything I had in my hands. to go get it, and I just kind of wish we made more posters like that, because movie posters used to go really hard, and now they're just like, you know, collages of people's faces, and they used to be hand painted and all sorts of stuff. And I know it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, I want my nostalgia, but like also I want my art. You know, like I want my art back. I want something I can hang up in my house and not just be like, oh yeah, this is random photoshopped images of superheroes, which are just super good looking actors in regular black spandex, because all imagination and whimsy has been drawn out of the media that we watch, and layered on top of each other. That's my wall poster. I don't want that anymore. I want cool posters like we used to have for movies and things like that. And I guess I'm going to go look up the movie Spirits of the Dead and see what that's about, because it's got an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's 2 hours long. So somehow they made this very short poem into a 2-hour saga. So yeah, I guess it stands to reason that it should be worth the watch. The poster looks crazy. Bridget Bardot is Bridget Bardoting on the other posters I'm seeing for this. So yeah, definitely something I think I have to go check out now that I've started this and started talking about it. But yeah, that's gonna be me. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the video. There's our secret little spot where you can tuck something behind there, and you have this little fold-up panels that you can check out. It's a really fun pocket, super interactive, so I'm really enjoying how this came out. Check out the hashtag Poevember25 to see what everybody else is up to, and come back tomorrow and see what we make. Until then, guys, happy crafting and goodbye. I appreciate your faces.